Hey guys, it's Matt. Hope y'all are doing well. This chapter is a lot.
Please take care of yourselves. I took extra time taking care of me with this chapter. Also, I'm sorry in advance for the cat noises. My cats were being really annoying during this one, so please ignore them. Let's get into it.
Choices by Messermoon. Chapter 25. Chapter summary. Everything is stressful from here on out. Notes. Trigger warning, homophobic language, violence, blood. I don't think it's too graphic, but it's graphic-ish. And implied/attempted sexual assault via the imperious curse. Again, nothing is graphic. You are my happy. He hadn't meant to say it. He had been half asleep. Unfair of James, really, being all sentimental around him in that state. You are my happy. He hadn't meant to say it. He had meant it, though. In retrospect, that was the real problem. He needed to end this. He knew that. The mark on his arm, a ticking clock. He just couldn't quite make himself let go. He'd never had something like this before. Something that was good. Something that was his. So he just kept digging a hole he wasn't sure he was ever going to be able to get himself out of. Oi! Earth to black? Regulus blinks as Evan shoves his hand in his face, flopping it around as he tries to get his attention. You're intolerable. Regulus slaps the hand away, earning him a grin. I love it when you talk dirty to me. Gross. Barty's leaning against the wall, his arms and ankles crossed in a way Regulus knows he thinks is intimidating, but is very much the opposite. Oh, don't be jealous, Barty. Evan leans close to him, making kissing noises, causing a look of utter revulsion to contort Barty's face. He shoves Evan away. Merlin, cut that out. People are going to think you're a fucking queer. Regulus doesn't react. He never does. Staring dully out the hallway as kids mill about on their lunch break. Evan rolls his eyes. I doubt it. Besides, if I was queer, I'd aim a little higher than you. I do have standards, you know. Since when? Regulus asks dryly. Oi! Evan tries to kick him, but Regulus smoothly steps out of the way, the corners of his mouth flicking up. I'm serious, Barty goes on, straight-faced. He'd been more of a buzzkill recently. Regulus reckons it's because his dad got another promotion. You think the Dark Lord... Jesus, Barty. Regulus cuts him off, eyes bouncing up and down the corridor, making sure no one's paying attention. A little subtlety, please. Barty's cheeks flush, his scowl growing. He's not going to want a bunch of puffs in the order, is he? Well, Reg thinks flatly. Bit late for that. I'm pretty sure he has more important things to worry about than who you're shagging. Evan claps Barty on the back. But it's cute that you think he cares. Barty shrugs him off. You haven't heard anything, have you? He says to Regulus. Heard anything? You know, from him, from the others. Anything they want us to do? Sometimes, the thing on Regulus's forearm squirms, wriggling under his skin like a real snake. Other times it burns. That's about the extent to which he's heard from Voldemort. No, he says flatly. Why would I have? Barty lets out a frustrated sigh, turning so his back presses into the wall. Fuck, I don't know. We're here. It could be useful. Get information or something. He kicks at the ground. I'm just so bored. Merlin, me too. Evan runs a hand down his face. Who the fuck cares about ruins when there's a war that's about to kick off? I swear, if we're stuck here when it does... Barty goes on, looking murderous. Regulus isn't sure he'd mind, honestly. Easier that way. No hard decisions to make, no danger, just... Oh, there was a wizarding war? I must have missed it. I was in arithmancy. Somehow, he can't quite believe it'll happen like that. We need to do something, Barty goes on, which sounds like a threat as far as Regulus is concerned. And what exactly do you suggest? He asks carefully. Barty kisses his teeth, looking agitated as his eyes bounce around the corridor. I don't know, just something. Something to get their attention. I'm intrigued, Barty. Go on, Evan says, and Regulus could smack him for encouraging this. Preferably not something that will get us arrested. Evan rolls his eyes. Honestly, Reg, you've got to get over the whole I don't want to get arrested thing. It's really holding us back. Regulus looks over at him, brow arched. It's hard to tell with Evan, when he's joking and when he's serious. Besides, like I said, even if they did lock us up, it wouldn't be for long. He gives Regulus a playful shove, and Regulus shoves him back, not feeling nearly as confident that anyone would come get them out of Azkaban. Their side might have control of the prison, but that doesn't mean they'd risk it becoming public knowledge for the sake of 3 teenage morons. Hey, what do you reckon the Dementors sound like? Regulus blinks, trying to catch up to the change of topic. What do they sound like? Yeah, like, are their voices deep? Evan provides him with a demonstration. Or high and squeaky! Despite himself, Regulus laughs. I am pretty sure they don't have voices at all. Evan looks at him skeptically. Nah, come on, they must. Flipendo, Barty snaps. Regulus looks over just in time to watch a third-year Hufflepuff get knocked off her feet. There's a moment of stillness in which everyone in the hallway seems to be in shock, staring at the girl open-mouthed. Then she makes a pathetic whimpering noise, and her friends go rushing to her side, others looking around to see who hexed her. Take that, you filthy mudblood, Barty smirks as he slides his wand back up his sleeve. Merlin, Barty, warn a bloke next time, will you? Evan says, dramatically clutching his heart. To be honest, Regulus doesn't care one way or the other about the Hufflepuff girl. It's the stupidity that bothers him. Congratulations, Barty, he says dryly. I'm sure the Dark Lord will be well impressed that you managed to jinx an unsuspecting 13-year-old. Definitely get his attention that. Heck, I'll be surprised if he doesn't show up any minute and give you the mark right here. I mean, who needs to be clever about these things, right? Might as well just start doing whatever the hell we want, wherever the hell we want, regardless of who's around. He watches the mirth drain from his friend's face, replaced by bitterness, but he doesn't care. Their positions are too precarious for idiotic stunts like that. Well put, Black, comes a new voice from behind him. Regulus closes his eyes for a brief moment and groans internally. Look who it is, Reg, your new best friend. Evan is grinning a little maniacally as he comes to Regulus's side, Regulus turning to find Remus Lupin at his back. The prefect is not looking especially good at the moment. Face pale, heavy bags under his eyes. It's clear he isn't sleeping. Lupin's gaze remains on Regulus for a second longer before it flicks behind him to Barty. Crouch, detention, and 50 points from Slytherin. 4? Barty asks in the most bratty tone Regulus thinks he's ever heard. He's honestly impressed. The older boy rolls his eyes. I saw you cast it. Not particularly subtle about it, were you? Barty's eyes narrow. Your word against mine. Remus lets out a dry laugh, shaking his head. I hear Dumbledore has a pensive. I will hand over my memory of the event. With no defense left, Barty resorts to glaring, as though he can frighten Lupin out of punishing him. Regulus thinks that's unlikely. Glad to see that won't be necessary. I'll let Slughorn know about the detentions. He doesn't look at Regulus as he pushes past them. Hey, Lupin, Barty calls out, stopping the prefect on his way down the hall. Oh, Evan whispers, elbowing Regulus in the side. This ought to be good. Regulus grimaces. I hear that dirty muggle mum of yours has gone and died. He smiles cruelly, showing off all his teeth. See, if I were you, I would have killed her myself years ago. You'd still be a filthy half-blood, but at least you'd have some dignity, you know? To his credit, Lupin doesn't even flinch. Just stares back at Barty, stone-faced, for long enough that the Slytherin starts to fidget. Then he turns around and continues down the corridor. Evan lets out a low whistle. Holy shit, my dude. He grabs Barty by the shoulders and gives him a shake. That was fucked up. Barty's eyes have gone dark, following Lupin's back as he disappears around the nearest bend. I meant it. Regulus doesn't have a shred of doubt that that's true. Uh-huh. Evan slings his arm around him, laughing a little. Let's go get some food, you little psychopath. He looks over his shoulder. Rug? Regulus nods slowly, eyes on Barty. Yeah, he says finally. Yeah, let's go. Barty's in a shit mood for the rest of the day, shoving and pushing his way through the corridors, cursing at just about everyone in sight. Evan finds it funny, though Evan finds most things funny. Regulus, on the other hand, finds it grating, which is why he tells him he's going to the library after last period, speeding off down the hallway before either of them can say anything about it. He might actually go to the library. He hasn't decided yet. The problem is that he'll likely run into Lupin again if he does, and he's not sure he has the patience for that right now. So instead he wanders, keeping to the quieter areas of the castle, away from the common rooms in the Great Hall. Between the end of the school day and dinner, the halls are generally pretty empty anyway. Well, look who it is. He stops at the end of the hall, turning around to find a smiling James Potter making his way toward him. His hair is a mess, glasses smudged, robes wrinkled, and yet somehow he still manages to be the most attractive person Regulus has ever seen. It's infuriating. James quirks his brow as he comes to a stop in front of him. Reg? Right. He's meant to speak. Hi. He wonders if James has talked to Lupin yet. He must have, yet he seems a little too happy to have heard exactly what happened with Barty. You okay? James asks, leaning a bit closer. He doesn't reach out, doesn't touch Regulus. He never does, unless Regulus says he can, but still, it's too close for the hallway, so Regulus steps back. Fine. What are you doing, wandering the halls without your fan club? He sees the flash of hurt in James's eyes at the distance between them, but he doesn't say anything. I was following you, actually, he says, rubbing the back of his neck, and it's then that Regulus realizes that James hasn't got any of his stuff with him. It only takes him a second to understand. You saw me on your map? James smiles sheepishly. I saw you on the map, he confirms. Regulus isn't exactly sure what to do with that information. On one hand, his stomach does several somersaults at the idea of James looking for him, coming to find him. On the other hand, he wonders if he's the only one at this school with any fucking sense. We really shouldn't be talking here, he says stiffly, eyes doing a quick circuit of the hallway, making sure they're still alone. That sucks some of the light out of James's eyes. Regulus feels guilty. He does, but he also doesn't want to step any closer. Reg, James says quietly, we've been together for a year. Which seems like a random and irrelevant piece of information to Regulus, but he at least knows but enough not to point that out. We have, he says slowly, wondering where the hell James is going with this and why he feels the need to do it in the middle of the corridor. So I don't want to do this forever. That makes something in Regulus's chest stammer. It shouldn't. After all, he's been telling himself to end things with James for months. If James has decided to do it himself, all the better for Regulus. He just hadn't seen it coming. You don't want to do this? Regulus repeats, hating how tight his voice sounds. I don't want to hide. Oh. The relief he feels is enough to stop him from fully taking in what James is saying. Yeah. James goes on, gaze bouncing between Regulus and the floor, like he's not quite brave enough to hold his gaze. I've been thinking, and obviously, coming out to the whole school would be a lot. Regulus's eyes instantly go back to the end of the hallway, and then over his own shoulder. He really really does not want to be having this conversation here. But maybe we could just start smaller, telling our friends. Whatever relief he'd felt about James not wanting to finish with him immediately evaporates. No, he says harshly, and then, perhaps too harshly, I'm sorry, haven't we already had this conversation? He sees James straighten up, and he knows this is going nowhere good. Knows he has to rein in his frustration, but that's never been his strong suit. Yes, we have, and I've told you I don't think you need to be so afraid. Regulus grits his teeth. The answer is no. It's always going to be no. He thinks of Lucius back in Scotland. Thinks of the hungry look in his eyes. I'd be careful if I were you. His voice bounces around in Regulus's head. Wouldn't want Bellatrix to find out about your little boy toy. James presses on through the silence. We're too big for hiding, Reg. You and me. He smiles a little. Can't you see it? If she finds out what you've been doing, and God forbid with whom, that poor boy is going to find himself dismembered. No, I don't see it. This time it's James who steps back, like he's just been hit. Surely you have to know that there's no other way. Not with me. But James looks back at him defiantly. People will surprise you. He thinks of his mother, of Bellatrix. No, they won't. James lets out a frustrated groan. Just my friends, then. That's all I'm asking. Regulus laughs coldly. Your friends? Meaning my brother? Yes. Merlin, have you lost your mind? No. No, James. He keeps checking over his shoulder. Over James's. God, he hates this. I think I can talk to him. James keeps pushing for reasons that Regulus can't fathom. I think I can make him understand. Take it from someone who has been trying to make Sirius understand for the last 15 years. You can't. He won't. And if he makes a scene, if other people find out, if it gets back to their family, God, this is so stupid. He's been so stupid. Look. James lifts his glasses, pinching the bridge of his nose. I know you're worried about how he'll react. You have no fucking idea what I'm worried about. He watches James tense at that, clenching his teeth as he lowers his hand. Then tell me, he growls. Tell me what has you so stuck, Reg. And for a moment, he almost does. They'll kill you. They'll kill me. Hell, they'll probably take out your parents just for the fun of it. I have no choice. I have nowhere to go. I'm putting you in danger every day, and I don't know how to stop. I let them carve him into my skin, and sometimes, I swear, I feel his heart beating over top of mine. But he doesn't say any of that. Instead, he takes another step back. I'm not having this conversation here. James's face clouds over. Sure. Fine. Whatever. He turns sharply on his heel, hands shoved in his pockets as he starts heading back in the direction he came from. Regulus feels a lump in the back of his throat. Fuck. James. Careful, Black. James throws over his shoulder. Wouldn't want anyone hearing you use my first name. They might get the wrong idea. He delivers the blow seamlessly. Doesn't even slow down to do it. It's work for Regulus not to flinch as he watches James round the next corner, disappearing from sight. Fuck, he says, out loud this time. For half a heartbeat, he actually considers going after him. But he can't. Can't risk causing a scene. Can't risk being overheard. This whole conversation was already dangerous enough. He sighs, scrubbing at his face with his hands. He really can't wait for the stay to be over. It's safe to say when he turns up for prefect duty that evening that he's not in the best of moods. He isn't seeing James again until tomorrow night, and that means he's stuck just sitting with this fight? Was it a fight? Are they fighting? His skin feels itchy, a pit growing in his stomach that he can't seem to get rid of. It's all stupid. This thing with James was never going to last. He should be happy that it's coming to an end in such a mundane way. Maybe it'll hurt them both less. No need for wars or monsters. Regulus can ruin this all on his own, thank you very much. Hey! He turns to see Circe walking toward him, smiling enthusiastically. Not that she smiles any other way. Regulus arches his brow. What are you doing here? Wow, what kind of greeting is that? She doesn't sound remotely put off. Regulus tries to adjust himself, shaking out his shoulders, dragging up some sort of amount of goodwill. Sorry, he manages. Bad day. Well, it just got better. She places her hands on her hips, pigtails bouncing on either side of her head. Regulus has never known anyone in real life who wears their hair in pigtails before. He always assumed it was a style reserved for cartoon characters. Has it? He asks tentatively. I'm on prefect duty with you tonight. Sarah got sick or something and asked me if I could cover, and I was like, heck yeah, I'll take your shift with my partner. So, here I am. Here you are. Regulus is never entirely sure whether he's exhausted or amused by Circe. You really have to stop telling people I'm your partner. She looks at him curiously as they start walking down the hall, away from the prefect's office. Why? Because people assume you mean something else. When she still looks confused, he tries again. It makes them think we're involved. There's a beat of silence before Circe starts laughing, almost insultingly loud, in Regulus's opinion. Us? She chokes, grabbing her stomach. Oh my God, I'm getting a cramp. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. You and me, a couple? She starts cackling again. Regulus would like to be annoyed, but for some reason he finds himself smiling instead. Stranger things have happened. Merlin, have they? She wipes at the corner of her eyes. Besides, I could never allow it. He arches his brow. Oh? Circe shakes her head, pigtails bouncing ridiculously. It would make my mother far too happy. That almost gets a laugh out of Regulus. Yeah, mine too. Circe meets his eye, something mischievous in her gaze. Well, that settles it then. We can't ever date. No, I suppose not. She holds out her hand, and it takes Regulus a second to realize she wants to shake on it, like it's some sort of business deal. He indulges her. To never making our mothers happy. That actually does get a laugh out of him. Surprising, given how miserable he'd been not 5 minutes earlier. To never making our mothers happy. He agrees. Their hands fall away, only for Circe to link their arms. Now, she says, as they start walking again, why don't you tell me about this terrible day of yours? It's not like she isn't a menace, because she is, but strangely, Regulus has found over the past few weeks that he rather likes talking to Circe Greengrass, as ridiculous as she is. There's something mildly awe-inspiring about someone who says absolutely everything they're thinking or feeling, without a moment's hesitation. Regulus has never met anyone quite like her. So, he tells her about this morning, with Barty, and about James too, just leaving out his name and some other details. A fight, he tells her, with a friend. It might be his fault. So, apologize. She shrugs, causing Regulus to roll his eyes. Yes, of course, why didn't I think of that? He says dryly. But when she looks over at him, she's completely earnest. Why didn't you? Because it's complicated. Complicated how? It's just, he was being an idiot. Circe smirks. It sounds like you just don't want to have to admit that you were in the wrong. I just admitted it to you, didn't I? Besides, like I said, he was being an idiot, so I was only partially in the wrong. 50% in the wrong, at most. She sends him a pointed look. Uh-huh. Regulus lets out a heavy sigh, rubbing at his face. Apologizing doesn't come easy to me, he says stiffly. I never would have guessed that about you, she says with a smile. As if that wasn't annoying enough, she continues. Do you always just give up on things that don't come easy to you? Regulus scowls. No. Well, then apologize. Regulus grumbles. He could, he supposes, apologize, though he's not entirely sure he should have to. I mean, yes, he was a bit of an ass, but how many times is he going to have to explain to James that they can't be a couple? Can't be out, not just for now, not just temporarily, but ever. Oh. Circe stumbles to a stop, pulling Regulus up short beside her. What is it? He asks, looking around at the empty corridor. I think we may have found students breaking curfew, she says, her cheeks pinking as she holds back a smirk. Regulus opens his mouth to ask her what she's on about when he hears it. A stifled moan. He turns to stare at the broom cupboard next to them in horror. They couldn't have used a bloody silencing charm, he grumbles under his breath. Circe chokes back a laugh. What do we do? She whispers. We could keep walking? Pretty sure our whole job is to deal with stuff like this. Regulus rolls his eyes. What are we even getting them for? Breaking curfew? Inappropriate behavior? Indecent exposure? Circe snorts. Technically, you don't know that they're indecent. At the next moment, another noise slips from under the door, this one closer to a growl. He sends Circe a pointed look. Sounds pretty bloody indecent. Fair enough. I can do it if you want. He waves her off, pulling out his wand and staring at the door, already feeling exhausted. He's beginning to think that Dumbledore gave him this prefect pin as some sort of sick punishment. Alohomora. He flicks his wrist, perhaps with a bit too much force because the door not only unlocks, but bursts open, banging into the wall. Regulus looks very pointedly away, not wanting to see any half-undressed strangers. He's about to speak when one of his occupants beats him to it. Holy fuck. Something cold drifts down his spine. Of course. Of course it's him. Regulus looks up, entirely ready to give his brother a snarky lecture about being a slag, but all words die in his mouth when he sees Sirius with his shirt half open, hair a mess, leaning against the wall with one hand by Remus Lupin's head. He blinks, trying to make the image reform in his mind's eye, trying to figure out how he's seeing what he's seeing. You know what? Circe says, after a moment of stillness, in which no one seems willing to move to address the situation. I think they got the idea. We can just go now. You guys get back to your dorm. Have a good night. She reaches out, tugging on Regulus's sleeve, trying to pull him away, but he doesn't move. He knows she should probably feel happy, or, if not happy, relieved. All those years spent worrying about how Sirius would react to finding out about him, and he was the same way all along. But that isn't how he feels. He feels angry. This, he realizes, is why James thinks he can talk to Sirius. This is why he thinks that they can be out in the open, at least to some people. No doubt, Sirius and Lupin are. James looks at them and sees a future he and Regulus can never have. The injustice of it, that after everything, Sirius gets this, too. The only thing Regulus has ever wanted. It makes him want to break something. Regulus? Circe tries again. This is priceless, this is, Regulus says coldly, his voice waking the couple up. Sirius quickly pulls away from Lupin, doing up his shirt, eyes wide with panic. Good, Regulus thinks. Really? Never would have guessed it. Sirius Black. Teen heartthrob. Gay. I'm not gay, Sirius snaps back, and Regulus doesn't miss the way that Lupin flinches. Really? And what exactly is your heterosexual explanation for being locked in a cupboard half-dressed with another bloke? The fire is still bright in Sirius's eyes, but his cheeks are pinking. Regulus laughs coldly. And after all the shit you talked over the years. When he speaks next, he's doing a mocking impression of Sirius's voice. Oh, come on, Reg. Don't be such a fairy. Don't be so fucking queer. Only bent boys cry. He drops the voice, expression flat, staring pointedly at his brother, who looks about ready to crawl out of his skin. I was a kid, says Sirius through clenched teeth. Oh, well, in that case, I guess you're only sort of a hypocrite. Okay. Lupin finally steps forward. We're going now. Yeah, Circe jumps in. We have to finish rounds, so... Both Circe and Remus start tugging on their respective black brothers, Remus somewhat more effectively guiding Sirius down the hall toward Gryffindor Tower. But Regulus isn't ready to let this go yet. Detention, he says, bringing the other pair to a stop, only a few paces away. For inappropriate behavior. Sirius looks back at him, face pale. You can't do that. People will talk. About what Sirius Black and Remus Lupin were doing alone in a cupboard together after curfew? I should certainly hope so. You know how gossip travels at this school, and I'll be happy to supply any details people might be after. Sirius looks like he can't decide between anger and horror. You can't do that, Reg. He smiles coldly. Watch me. Sirius makes a move, like he's trying to lunge at him, but Lupin pulls him back, stepping between the pair of them. He meets Regulus's gaze head on. We both know you're not going to do that, he says calmly. But Regulus doesn't back down. Your confidence is unfounded. Is it? And when Regulus doesn't flinch, he pushes. We all have things we'd rather not get out. Regulus doesn't need a mirror to know that the leer cutting its way across his face isn't pleasant. What are you talking about, Mooney? Sirius asks. Yes, Lupin, do go on. Tell him. What are you talking about? The two of them stare at one another, unblinking. A face-off, a duel without wands, waiting to see whose nerve cracks first. Lupin may not care about outing Regulus, but he won't do that to James. Regulus would bet his life on it. Eventually, Lupin breaks, shaking his head as he turns back to Sirius. Come on, let's go. But Sirius isn't going anywhere, not while this still hangs in the air. Reg, I need you to do this for me, okay? I need you to not tell anyone. Those words are like broken glass, shredding Regulus on the inside. When was the last time you gave a shit about me, he wants to say, about what I need? When was the last time you did anything but look down your nose at me? No. He sees the fear explode across Sirius's face. Regulus, please. Fuck. Please. I'm begging you here, as your brother. Regulus laughs. As my brother? You haven't been my brother in 6 fucking years, Sirius, so do us all a favor and spare your groveling. It's pathetic. Even for you. Sirius opens and closes his mouth like a fish, no words making it out. Remus reaches out again, trying to pull Sirius away. He won't do it. He's bluffing. Come on. But Sirius is staring right into Regulus's eyes, into his steadfast gaze. What do you want, Reg? He asks finally. And oh, there are so many things. But the answer comes quickly enough, as though he'd had it planned. Come home for Christmas. Sirius goes so still it's startling, the blood draining from his face. No, this is Remus now, stepping forward again. There's no fucking way. Regulus shrugs. Fine, then. I suppose congratulations are in order. Hogwarts' first openly gay couple. What an honor. Something strangled comes out of Sirius's throat. They'll kill me, Reg. You realize that? They'll kill me if I go back. No, they won't. And they won't. They just won't let him go. But why should he get to? Why should he get to walk away? Let him see how it feels to be stuck in a house with no air. Let him see how much harsher they've become, how much tighter their hands squeeze. I'll give you time to think about it, he says, when the boys in front of him continue to stare in horrified silence. Though if I were you, I wouldn't keep me waiting for too long. He looks over his shoulder at Circe. Come on, let's go. He starts walking toward her, but Lupin reaches out and grabs his wrist. Regulus isn't sure he's ever seen so much rage contained in one person before. It's impressive, really. He'll never forgive you for this. You know that? He's dropped his voice low, and there is no question who the he in question is. Regulus feels his chest squeeze, but ignores it. Isn't that what you want? He asks, before ripping his arm out of Lupin's grasp and pushing down the hallway. Regulus doesn't sleep well, bouncing between regret and satisfaction. For once, maybe Sirius will understand how it feels, how it really feels to be in Regulus's position, to have someone else holding your life in their hands and not being able to fight your way out, or to run away, which has always worked so well for Sirius in the past. What was it Sirius had said to him? Better to be dead than to let them have you? Well, they'd see how much of that Gryffindor valor he really had, the smug bastard. You all right there, Reg? Regulus blinks, swerving just in time to avoid running into the open door in front of him. You seem a little distracted, Evan goes on, clearly trying to hold back a laugh. I'm fine, he mutters, adjusting his transfiguration books as they head in the direction of their next class. He's not really paying attention when he hears Barty mutter mudblood at someone as they passed in the hall. It's not an uncommon occurrence. The people around them barely batting an eye. That is, until a strong voice cuts through the buzzing chatter. Sorry, I didn't catch that. What did you just say to me? Regulus blinks, looking from Evan to Barty as they all come to a stop. Mary MacDonald standing in the center of the hallway with her hands on her hips and a storm in her eyes. Barty shifts uncomfortably. No one's ever called him out before. You heard what I said, he mutters, checking nervously about for teachers. She smiles at him. Really? Because I heard I have a small dick, which I have to admit is a weird thing to whisper in a girl's ear, but hey, whatever gets you off, I suppose. There's a ripple of snickering in the crowd around them that causes Barty's face to go beet red. Watch yourself, MacDonald, he growls, and Regulus finds himself inching closer in case he has to stop Barty from doing something stupid, like cursing Mary MacDonald in the middle of a busy hallway. She laughs, stepping forward until the two of them stand toe to toe. It feels like she looms over him, even though he's a good 2 to 3 inches taller than her. Does it make you feel strong, spewing rubbish like that? She asks, her words cutting. Because personally, I think it's pathetic. Barty opens his mouth to retaliate, but she doesn't let him. Don't you ever threaten me again, Barty Crouch. You haven't a quarter of the power that I have. With that, she turns on her heel, Regulus spotting a concerned-looking McKinnon waiting for her at the other end of the corridor. Despite Regulus's fears, Barty doesn't move, doesn't reach for his wand or lunge after her. In fact, he stands frighteningly still, the hallway traffic slowly starting to make its way around him again, most people giving him a wide berth, afraid of getting hit with whatever temper tantrum is coming. I mean, Evan says after a few moments of silence, MacDonald well out of sight now. That was kind of hot. Regulus turns to look at him, brow arched, and Evan instantly throws his hands up. Listen, she's a grade A bitch. I'm not saying she isn't, but, you know, hot one. Regulus just shakes his head, not wanting to touch that, happy that Barty doesn't appear to be paying them much attention, his dark eyes burning a hole into the floor where MacDonald had been standing. Disgraceful, isn't it? Comes a snide voice from behind them. They turn to find Snape leaning against the wall, Mulciber looming like a bodyguard beside him. "Oh, piss off, Severus," Evan says with a wave of his hand. "No, I mean it," he goes on, eyeing Barty's still turned back. The way they're allowed to just strut about, treat us. "Listen, Sevy, I know the girls are none too keen on you, but you really shouldn't go making generalizations. Some of us do quite well with the ladies." Evan gives him a wink that has Snape rolling his eyes. "He means mudbloods, idiot," Mulciber grumbles in his baritone voice. Evan looks over at him and frowns. "Pot, kettle, no?" "Did he just call me an idiot?" Evan gives Regulus a little nudge. "I love it when people prove my points for me." "Listen, you little..." Mulciber steps forward, but Snape holds out his arm, blocking his path before he can get too close. "There's no point in fighting amongst ourselves," Snape says, causing Regulus to arch his brow. "You say that like we're on the same side." Severus gives him something that is maybe meant to be a smile, but doesn't seem to have much goodwill in it. "Aren't we? And then, we need to do something. Need to put them in their places." "That's what I've been saying." Barty speaks for the first time, finally turning to look at them. Snape's eyes go bright, like a predator who's just caught his prey. "Excellent." Snape licks his lips. "I've been thinking." But Regulus doesn't hear what Snape's been thinking, partially because he hates the kid and therefore tunes him out whenever possible, but also because at that moment he spots James from across the hall, gaze intent on him. It's hard to hold, all the anger in that look, the betrayal. Hard not to sink under it. James hasn't looked at him like that in a long time. Maybe not ever. For a second, Regulus wonders if James is going to confront him here and now. It would be so like him. But after a few seconds, he turns away, called by someone else. He doesn't look back again. "Oi, Reg." He feels someone knock his shoulder and looks up to find Evan staring down at him. "We gotta go. Transfiguration, remember?" Regulus blinks. Snape and Mulciber are already walking down the hall, Barty at their side. An unholy alliance, if Regulus has ever seen one. "Right," he says eventually. "Yeah, let's go." Evan gives him a curious look. "You sure you're all right?" Regulus swallows with difficulty, looking at the spot where James had been. "Of course." As he walks through the door to the come-and-go room, the fire comes to life. Candles lighting around the room, filling the space with a warmth that feels strange after coming from the green of the Slytherin dorms. This place is so familiar to him now. It feels like home. The room is empty, of course. He's always the first one. James coming after he spies him on the map, which means now Regulus has nothing to do but wait. Normally, he doesn't mind, but tonight his nerves are fried. He perches himself on the edge of the bed, hands on his knees, trying to prepare himself. He focuses on his breath, on keeping it even, and staying calm. He can do this. He can. He can. He can. James doesn't keep him waiting long. It can't be more than 15 minutes before the door is opening again and James is walking in. The minute he sees Regulus, he stops, eyes hard in a way that Regulus has never seen before. Regulus clears his throat. "You've heard, then?" "Yes." He nods, waiting for James to go on, but he doesn't. Regulus, of course, knows what he ought to do. Apologize, just like Cersei said. More than that, beg for forgiveness. Explain how infuriating it had been to realize Sirius was once again getting everything he wanted. But of course, he doesn't do any of that. "I suppose it must have felt nostalgic, the four of you sitting around, bashing me. Any new insults I should know about? He says flippantly, looking to find James with his hands in fists. Most people express themselves with their faces or their words, but James is all hands. The way they move and reach and hold. You can learn everything you need to know about him just by watching his hands. I defended you, actually. His voice is so cold that it takes Regulus a moment to realize what he's actually said. And even then, he still needs to run the sentence over a few times before it sinks in. Defended me? He repeats, feeling suddenly wrong-footed. He wasn't expecting that. James nods stiffly. I told Remus I thought you were afraid of going back to Grimmauld alone. Regulus struggles between feeling insulted and at the same time feeling terribly, tragically seen. But James doesn't give him the chance to interrupt. I said I doubted Sirius had just been an innocent bystander, that I was sure he goaded you into it. Regulus feels his chest grow tight at the idea of James standing up for him. Remus hasn't spoken to me all day, so that's been lovely. Tell me, Reg, what the fuck is wrong with you? He's not fast enough to stop himself from grimacing. Well, he says slowly, that's a bit of a loaded question. James stares back at him, blank-faced. Yeah, I'm not joking right now. No, he certainly isn't. Regulus can't think of anything to say, so they end up just standing there, staring at one another. Eventually, James speaks again. Remus says you won't tell anyone, because you know I won't forgive you if you do. But it won't matter, because Sirius doesn't know that, so he'll still do what you want. You're playing us both. James's fists are still clenched at his sides. I told him that you aren't that manipulative. He lets out a shaking exhale. Was I wrong? Regulus blinks. What? Was I wrong? He isn't sure how to answer that question. He drops his eyes, thinking about it, trying to pick the truth out of the mess of intentions. I don't intend to tell anyone, he says finally. Too much drama for too little reward. But I was counting on Sirius not knowing that. I just tried not to think about. James stares at him for a moment longer before shaking his head, turning around so his back is to Regulus, hands at the base of his neck. That's fucked up, Reg. Do you realize that? And for some reason, that sparks something in him. It's all fucked up. That's a cop-out, Regulus. No, he says stubbornly. It's the truth. It's all fucked up. It's fucked up that Sirius gets to do whatever he wants and get away with it. James laughs without humor. What are you even talking about? Regulus's nails are digging into his knees, the anger like a fuse, already lit and headed toward detonation. What did he do last year, James? That gets James to turn around again. What has that got to do with? Because he'll do it again. Whatever the fuck it is that he did to hurt Lupin so badly, he'll do it again, and you'll forgive him. You'll let it slide, and... I didn't let anything slide. Bullshit! Regulus is standing now, facing James. You and Lupin and everyone else, you let him get away with using you, with taking what he wants and giving nothing back, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of him getting everything. James' mouth forms a firm line, eyes unmoved. So what? You're the one who's going to punish him then? Is that it? The one who's going to put him in his place? Well, no one else is going to do that, clearly. You're acting like a fucking baby. You know that? Which is completely unfair in Regulus's opinion. Oh, fuck you, James. He's not going back to Grimmauld Place, James says harshly. Regulus usually isn't that aware of the height difference between them. But just then he feels it. Feels those extra inches James has weighing on him, pushing him down into the ground. Well, I guess we'll see, won't we? No, James says harshly. He's not going, and you're not saying shit. Understood? Regulus glared at him. But why? I thought people would surprise me, James. I thought there was no need to be so scared. If that's all so true, then why the fuck does it matter? Because he doesn't want it. Regulus laughs cruelly. Oh, and whatever Sirius wants, Sirius gets, right? You make damn sure of that, don't you? Running around, cleaning up all his messes? Shut up, Reg. Tell me, does it ever get tiring, being so far up his ass? I said, shut up. One of these days, he's really gonna fucking hurt someone. I mean, really bad. And I can't wait to hear what you say then, how you defend him. Stop making it sound like Sirius is in the wrong, James cuts in. He hasn't done anything to you. He's done everything to me. Regulus is breathing heavy, his chest heaving up and down, and for the first time, James looks something other than angry. Reg, get out. Regulus. I said get out. Get the fuck away from me. But of course, James doesn't move. Not an inch. Just keeps standing there, staring at him, with his two big eyes behind his two big glasses, seeing all of him. Seeing far too much of him. What are you even doing here? He goes on, pushing. Don't you have a mudblood to fuck? Evans has been drooling over him for weeks, driving Regulus up the wall every time she sits next to him. I'm sure your blood traitor parents will be so proud when they find out. The Potter line turned to filth. James goes stiff, staring at Regulus like he doesn't recognize him. And then, without a word, he turns on his heel and walks out the room. The sound of the door slamming behind him echoing in Regulus's chest. And that's okay. It's fine. Good, even. James should walk away. That's what Regulus wants. What he's wanted for months. He starts pacing, struggling to get enough air, feeling as though his lungs won't expand. His ribcage suddenly shrunk to half the size, but it's fine. Good even. Inhale, exhale. Nothing matters, especially not James Potter. Somehow he ends up on the other side of the room, gripping the fireplace mantle with both hands. This feeling will pass. He's sure of it. He's been through worse than this. If there's anything Regulus is an expert in, it's pain, and it always passes. Always. Besides, this is fine. Good, even. Now he and James can go their separate ways. James can live his happy, perfect life, and Regulus can persist. And James need never know about the mark. Probably for the best. It would only hurt him. Regulus is still clutching at the fireplace, unable to take in a full breath, unable to quell the aching pain beneath his ribs, his lungs, his heart. He squeezes his eyes shut, trying to stop the world from spinning. You are my happy. He hadn't meant to say it, but he had meant it. That was okay, though. Good, even, because happy was never something he was meant to have anyway. He almost thinks he's imagining it when he hears the door open, his head snapping up as he turns around and sees James Potter walking back into the room. James stutters under Regulus's gaze, like maybe he's going to change his mind and walk right back out. But eventually, he comes forward, sitting on the arm of one of the sofas facing the fireplace. He runs a hand over his face, looking exhausted. Regulus doesn't know what to say. Thing is, James speaks eventually, looking down at his hands in his lap. He isn't shouting anymore. He doesn't even sound angry. Sometimes I need to walk away. I always have. Even when I was little. I need space. I need to think. Regulus stares at him. To think? He repeats, fairly certain that any minute he's going to blink and realize that this is all a hallucination. James nods. Yeah. And then, looking up. But I'm always coming back. Those eyes say, I know you. Say, I heard you giving up even if you never opened your mouth. James exhales, never looking away from Regulus. I'll always come back to you. Okay? Suddenly, Regulus has a visceral image of the day Sirius left. Of the empty bedroom, the missing chair at the table, his mother, in one of her rages, burning his face off the family tree, and the weeks of waiting for anything. An owl, a flu call, a muggle letter, but nothing ever came. The next time he saw Sirius was on the Hogwarts Express. His brother had barely looked at him, barely talked to him since. Regulus wants to tell James that people don't come back, and they certainly don't come back for him. And maybe there's a good reason for that. After all, you don't drown yourself trying to save a dead body. Regulus sighs, leaning against the fireplace and scrubbing his face. You shouldn't. Shouldn't? Come back to me. James doesn't seem surprised by this. Do you not want me here? He asks calmly, impressively calm, considering a few minutes ago they were screaming at one another. Regulus almost laughs. You know I do. James arches his brow, and it takes a valiant effort on Regulus's part not to roll his eyes. I want you here, he says. And then, I shouldn't, though. And I wish I didn't. James sits with that for a moment, eyes softening ever so slightly. I know. Part of Regulus wants to tell James to go, to build on this space between them, to stretch it and pull it until they can't reach one another anymore, until it becomes insurmountable. But the other part of him, the stronger, needier part, wants to walk over there and bury his face in James's chest, wants to feel his arms wrap around him, wants to listen to James talk his sentimental nonsense until he falls asleep. You are my happy, he sighs. What are you doing here, James? James looks at him. Why am I not fucking Lily Evans, you mean? Regulus tries and fails not to wince. But he doesn't correct him. After a few moments of tense silence, James goes on. Hoping you apologize, I suppose. Regulus watches him. For calling her a mudblood? James nods slowly. Among other things. You really do hate that word, don't you? James looks at him with something nearing disappointment. Yes, he says. And then, I wish you did. Regulus looks inside himself from the indignation that he knows James feels. But he comes up blank. Eventually, he shrugs. I don't feel anything about that word. James grimaces. I know. The word sorry sits in Regulus's mouth, ready to be spoken, to be set free, yet for some reason, the idea of saying it makes his stomach squirm. Several moments pass before he finally clears his throat. I'm sorry. The corners of James's mouth twitch. Thank you. He runs his hand through his hair, and when he looks back at Regulus, there's a hint of worry there. I'm gonna need you to do something for me, okay? Well, this doesn't sound good. Okay, Regulus says hesitantly. I need you to tell Sirius that you won't out him to the school. Regulus grits his teeth. Isn't it enough that I tell you? James shakes his head. No. And there's another thing. Definitely doesn't sound good. I need you to do it under Veritaserum. Regulus waits for the laughter, because surely this is a joke. His indignation must show on his face because James throws up his hands in a placating gesture. Listen, I had to talk Remus down from having you make an unbreakable vow, okay? This was the compromise. Regulus continues to stare at James like he's lost his bloody mind, which he must have. This is a terrible idea. You have a better one? Regulus grinds his teeth. He hates Veritaserum. It makes him feel too exposed, out of control. It's violating. A shiver runs through him just thinking about it. It's too much like legitimacy. Reg? James asks cautiously. He can see the concern in his expression. I'll do it, Regulus says finally, though every part of him revolts against the idea. But I have conditions. James arches his brow. Which are? Regulus holds his gaze. You're the one who does the asking. There's a short pause before James nods. Okay. Sirius will still have to be there, though. Probably Remus as well. He's the one brewing it. Regulus grimaces. I can brew it. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work for them. He'd assumed as much. Fine, but you ask, and it's only the one question I get to hear before I take the potion. Understood? Another pause. Yeah, Rig. Okay. And then, I won't let anything happen to you that you don't want. You know that, right? Those big eyes, infuriatingly bright and kind. Regulus nods. That helps. It doesn't fix anything, but it helps. When? He asks finally. Tomorrow? His stomach squirms, but really, better get this over with sooner rather than later. He could say no, offers the voice in his head. You could make good on your threat. The problem is, it's hard to want to, staring at James. Weak, the voice hisses. Yeah, he thinks. I am. Is that okay? James ducks his head, trying to get Regulus's attention. Regulus blinks, realizing he's just been standing there silently. Fine, he says flatly. The fire crackles behind them, casting shadows over the bed across the room. It feels uncomfortable to look at right now, like it doesn't belong here in this moment. This is usually such a happy space. Are we done now? Regulus asks stiffly, trying to keep his voice as detached as possible. James looks up. Done? Fighting? James watches him for a minute before sighing, holding his hand out. After a few seconds, Regulus finds himself taking it, being pulled into James just the way he'd wanted, though he'd never admit it. He burrows his face into the crux of the other boy's neck. Yeah, Reg, James says softly, hand tracing circles on his back. We're done fighting. It feels good, even if Regulus knows it isn't true. They don't talk much after that. Eventually, James slides down onto the sofa, bringing Regulus with him, holding him too tight. It feels like denial, like licking wounds they can't heal. Still, Regulus doesn't pull away. Not for a long time. He's yawning when he finally makes his way down the passage to the Slytherin common room. It's late, close to 2 a.m, he imagines. He feels worn out by the day, by the cauldron of emotions bubbling in his chest, by all the things he can't do. Maybe if any of those things had been different, he would have noticed sooner. The unnatural quiet, the familiar buzzing of a muffliato charm. But he doesn't notice anything until he gets to the door of his dorm and finds it locked. He looks down at the handle in his hands, trying to twist it again with no luck. He briefly considers going back to the common room and just sleeping on one of the sofas. He hasn't got the energy for whatever the hell those idiots are doing in there. But after a few moments of deliberating, he pulls out his wand. Alohomora, he hisses, hearing the satisfying click of the lock. With a deep breath, he slides his wand back up his sleeve and pushes forward. The first thing that hits him is the noise. As soon as he passes the threshold, some terrible wizard rock band starts shouting in his ears, the door closing behind him. The second thing he notices are the people. He blinks, adjusting to the dark lighting. Mulciber and Snape are sitting on his bed, girls Regulus doesn't recognize dancing in front of them. The curtains around Barty's bed have been drawn, and Evan... Reg! Evan shouts, cup in one hand, the other slinging around Regulus's shoulders, pulling him further into the room. Regulus can smell the alcohol in his breath. Evan, what the hell is going on? He spots Avery in the corner, a girl in his lap, her back to Regulus. Ah, well, Severus over there. He gestures, the miserable twat with his drink. Actually had a good idea for once. I highly doubt that. Is this a party? Are you throwing a party in the middle of the week in our dorm room? With Snape, of all people? No, listen. He thumps Regulus too hard in the chest, knocking the wind out of him. Ooh, sorry about that. But no, not a party. Not just a party anyway. See, after McDonald's little display in the corridor, Snape decided that the Mudblood girls needed to be knocked down a few pegs. You know, reminded of who's fucking in charge around here, who their betters are, so to speak. Evan waggles his eyebrows in a thoroughly unsettling way. Regulus still feels lost. You wanted to put them in their place? He repeats, getting a nod of approval from Evan. So you invited them back to your room for a drink? Evan snorts, gripping Regulus's shoulder. Nah, no invites. He brings his face uncomfortably close to Regulus's. We don't need to ask the Mudbloods for shit. We can just take it. Regulus stares at him, feeling an uncomfortable scratching against his ribs as he takes in the room. Again, takes in the vacant looks in the girls' faces. Evan, he says slowly, what did you do? Evan grins. Imperio. Surprisingly, Barty is very good at it. He leans back, taking a sip of his drink. Regulus steps away, a wave of nausea crashing into him. He remembers being in the kitchen. Remembers Bellatrix's voice in his head. On your knees. Bark. Kiss it. Vomit crawls up the back of his throat, and then he collides with the wall behind him, skin covered in sweat, everything too hot. Hey, whoa, Reg? Evan's voice gets closer, and Regulus cringes away. Don't, he hisses, stopping Evan's hand midair as he reaches for him. Regulus shakes his head. Don't touch me. Evan looks genuinely frightened. Shit, you don't look good. Are you okay? Regulus swallows, trying to figure out a way to answer that question when his eyes fall on Barty's bed again, curtains drawn. Evan? What's Barty doing? What? Evan looks over his shoulder. Oh, he turns back to Regulus, his smile slightly less confident. He got Mary. He'd been 13. Lucius said, You'll like it. Trust me. Don't you trust me, Reggie? And he had. Of course he had. He'd been 13. They're everywhere. The girls with the dead eyes, and suddenly they look just like him. Regulus, stop it. Stop this. They need to leave. His back is pressed against the wall, but it's not enough. Like the thick air of the room has grown hands, and he can feel it. Feel them on his skin and his head. Hey, look, it's okay, all right? Evan says, hands held up like he's trying to calm a startled animal. It's not like they'll remember it anyway. Don't you trust me, Reggie? Regulus's nails start digging into the stone. They'll remember. What? Regulus forces his eyes open, not realizing he had closed them in the first place. Evan, please, I'm asking. Please get them out. There's a pause. A few seconds, a few minutes, Regulus doesn't know. But in the end, Evan nods. Okay. And as easy as that, he whips out his wand, spelling off the music and upping the lights, turning to face the room at large. Show's over, folks. Let's clear out. Send the witches on their way. Are you kidding me? Avery demands, shoving the girl off his lap so he can look at Evan properly. The girl doesn't react, her expression remaining blank. Regulus has to look away. Getting cold feet, Rosier? Snape asks, though his eyes are on Regulus. Evan just grins at him. Getting bored, more like. Now, if you don't mind, you can get the fuck out of my room. What about Crouch? Mulciber demands, jabbing a hand toward Barty's bed. What about him? Evan asks. You do know that he lives here, right? Mulciber scowls. So what? He just gets to carry on while the rest of us get blue balls? Evan gives him a flat look, but Regulus can tell he's thinking about how difficult Barty is going to make this. Eventually, he turns to the bed in question. Barty? Don't you fucking dare, Evan. A voice growls from behind the curtains. Evan's eyes. Come on, Barty. Get out here. It's over. There's a pause before the curtains whip back, so violently Regulus is surprised they don't come off their tracks. Barty is shirtless, but his trousers are still on. That's something, isn't it? Regulus sags a little more into the wall. There's thunder, and the look Barty throws at Evan. You're joking. Tell me you're joking, right? Because I swear, if you don't start laughing... No. Snape interrupts, sliding off Regulus's bed. He'll have to get the house elves to wash the sheets, and coming to lean against the chest on the foot of it. Don't be too hard on poor Rosier. He's only doing what he's told. Regulus makes sure to hold Snape's gaze. Isn't that right, Black? Merlin, he hates him. Yeah, I want you the fuck out of my room. Snape smirks. All right. Fair enough, but surely you won't have a problem with your friend carrying on. I have a problem with it, Mulciber grumbles. Snape takes another step toward him, and Regulus feels alarm bells go off inside his head. Too close, but he swallows down that fear, however much it hurts going down. Regulus? Barty demands. But Regulus doesn't take his eyes off Snape. Yeah, I do have a problem with it. Snape's smile grows. But why? He takes another step closer, and Regulus wonders if he knows what he's doing. There's something cruel in Snape's gaze, something cold. He has a vision of a hallway. Roger Flint crowding him into a wall, and Snape just standing there. Of course, this had been his idea. I don't have to explain myself to you. Now get out and take them with you. He motions to the blank-faced girls. Reg, what the fuck? Barty is halfway out of the bed when a foot comes from behind and kicks him in the back, sending him catapulting onto the floor. Almost immediately, a half-dressed Mary MacDonald follows, clear-eyed and on a warpath. Regulus curses under his breath. This is the last thing they need. Don't you dare let that bitch out, Barty shouts, struggling to get up from the floor. Mulciber is the first one to move, throwing his huge body in her path. You want to kiss, MacDonald? He asks as he grabs her by the arms, pinning them to her sides. Don't fucking touch me. She knees him in the groin and he instantly drops her, doubling over in pain. Barty's on his feet now, and he grabs her by the hair before she can get far, yanking her backwards with too much force. She goes careening toward the floor, Barty noticing too late that she won't be able to catch herself. A split second later, Mary MacDonald's head hits the stone. The room goes still. They wait for her to get up. She doesn't. Fuck. Barty's the first one to speak. All his bravado drained away. Oh fuck, my dad's gonna kill me. Regulus spares him a glance before he looks back at Mary. Her eyes closed, her hair definitely darker near the scalp. He steps forward, carefully kneeling down on the ground and hovering his ear above her chest. She's breathing, he says eventually, sitting back. Fuck, that's worse. Barty starts to pace. Evan crouches down beside him. She's bleeding really bad, he says calmly. He doesn't sound upset. Doesn't sound scared. Simply commenting on the situation. Regulus nods. Yeah. He's gonna give me the Dementor's kiss. Barty is still prattling on. Barty who wanted to do something, to prove himself so badly. Regulus gently prods at her head, trying to get a sense of how bad the damage is while running through every healing spell he knows. There aren't many. After a moment, he pulls out his wand. Patientium, he tries, hearing the noise of something vaguely wet slurping into place. Evan wrinkles his nose. What was that? Stamina spell, he mutters, turning her head gently to the side to inspect the wound. There's still a gash, bleeding less profusely now, but not healed. He pulls his hands back. They're covered in blood. It's on his wand. So, is that it? Is she good now? Avery asks, peering over Evan's shoulder. Regulus sends him an irritated look. No, she needs to go to the infirmary. That seems to garner a reaction out of everyone. Evan lets out a low whistle. Barty sits down to his bed and drops his head into his hands, muttering, He's going to kill me. Mulciber and Snape decide to take a more verbal approach. We can't take her to the infirmary. Mulciber blusters. They'll find us out. It does seem rather reckless, Black. Snape adds, sounding significantly less troubled than everyone else. Regulus glares up at him. This whole thing was reckless. He gets to his feet. Can you perform a memory charm? He asks Snape. There's a pause before the other boy nods. Good. Make sure they don't remember anything and then get them back to their dorms. He gestures to the girls. And get the fuck out of my sight. Snape's dark eyes run him up and down. And you're in charge, are you? He considers hexing him, but honestly he hasn't got the time. Yeah. He pushes his sleeve back, bearing his mark for the first time since he got it. Yeah, I'm in charge. Holy shit, Avery says, as he and Mulciber both crowd around. He watches Snape take it in, watches him swallow his pride with a bitter look on his face, eyes flicking back up to Regulus. Well, who would have thought you had it in you? Regulus doesn't answer, just stares him down. Eventually, Snape concedes. Grab the girls, he says to his friends. Bring them back to our dorm. Hey, Regulus stops him. Snape shooting him a look halfway out the door. They get back to their dorms. Snape nods. Of course. None of the other girls seem to have broken free of the spell's hold. Regulus isn't sure if it's because Mary MacDonald is exceptionally strong or Barty's spell was just exceptionally weak. It could go either way. Regardless, Avery and Mulciber try to herd the others out without much fuss, leaving the room a silent mess. I'm so dead, Barty keeps repeating, looking as though he's trying to pull his hair out. He's gonna let them suck out my soul. He's gonna watch them do it. Regulus looks down at Mary, eyes still closed, head still bleeding. What's the plan, Captain? Evan asks. There's really only one option at this point. I'll bring her to the infirmary. Evan arches his brow in question, but Regulus only shrugs. I already have the mark, right? He bends down to pick her up, but stops halfway. Get me her shirt. What? Regulus looks sharply at Barty. Get me her shirt. Barty looks somewhere between confused and angry, but he doesn't argue, reaching back across his bed and coming back with a black t-shirt. Regulus is clumsy getting it on her, but he feels better once he does. Not that it changes anything. He slips one arm under her legs and the other under her head, struggling to straighten up. Disillusion us, won't you? He asks Evan, who nods, instantly obliging. Right. I'll see you in a bit. Do you want me to come with you? Evan asks, staring somewhere over Regulus's head. No, it'll be easier alone. Evan nods and Regulus turns for the door, smell of blood already overwhelming his senses. Regulus? He pauses. Yeah? Birdie fidgets, hair sticking out in all directions from the pulling, his face frightfully pale. Thank you. But Regulus doesn't respond, channeling his anger into a single look his friend will never see before pushing out the door and into the hallway beyond. It's the middle of the night right now, so the hallways are fairly easy to navigate even while carrying an unconscious body. Still, by the time he gets to the infirmary, he's exhausted, breathing heavy as he lowers her carefully onto the floor, leaning her against the wall. He wipes his sweaty palms on his trousers before pulling out his wand, casting a silencing charm around them and then pointing it at Mary. Renervate. Her eyes fly open, her mouth gasping for air, arms flying out as though she expects to find herself falling. Shh, Regulus tries to calm her. It's okay. You're all right. She looks like she's about to speak, but instead a moan comes out of her mouth. Ow, fuck, my head. Her hand goes up to grab it, but instantly flies out again. Oh my god, am I bleeding? Mary, I need you to focus, okay? Takes hold of her shoulders, making sure to keep his voice even, soothing. She's shaking under his hands. Can you focus for me? She blinks several times, wincing. Regulus? Yes, I need you to tell me who did this to you. Do you remember? Ow, it really hurts. Fuck, my head. I know. And he does. She shouldn't be conscious right now, but he needs to get through this. Just tell me what you remember, and then I can get you some pain potion, okay? He can see her struggling through it. Yeah. But her face seems to implode in on itself, and she goes quiet for a moment. Sorry, she finally manages, the word a half sob. Sorry, it's okay, Regulus says. I just need you to tell me if you remember who did this to you. She breathes in with difficulty. Yeah. Yeah, it was Crouch. It was Barty fucking Crouch. Regulus does his best not to grimace, wand still in his hand. Right, okay. That was really good, Mary. Her eyes squeeze shut, teeth shattering from the pain. Can I get that potion now? Yeah, of course. He lifts his wand. I'm sorry. What? Obliviate. Her face goes blank, all the tension from the pain and fear dropping away. Regulus lifts his wand again. I really am sorry. Legilimens. The thing is, they're going to ask her questions. Pomfrey, McGonagall, Dumbledore even. A student shows up in the infirmary unconscious and brutalized. That doesn't just go away. And a blank memory is almost as dangerous as a fully intact one. So he needs to replace it. For once in his life, being his mother's son actually comes in handy. He's seen Walburga mess with enough people's heads, mess with his own, that he's picked up a few tricks. He forces his way into her head. She's weak and doesn't seem to know occlumency, so it isn't hard. Her memory is fluttering around him like he's standing in a room full of butterflies, snippets of voices and faces coming in and out of focus. It's always best to build on something real. So he focuses on her most recent memories, pulling them before him. It takes a heroic amount of mental energy to control someone else's thoughts, and he knows he won't be able to maintain this for long. He needs to act fast. Everything's a bit distorted because of the Imperio, but the moments in the dorm room just few and far in between. Most of the night just black. Regulus wonders if that's because she was slowly pushing back against the curse. If the moments of blurry memory are her coming back to the surface. He's obliviated the last hour or so, meaning she has no memory of coming back fully to herself or fighting with Barty or Mulciber, but there is a memory of her getting cursed. Regulus grabs hold of it, watching Barty walk toward her. "Hey, McDonald?" It sounds like Regulus is listening to them underwater. "Get lost, creep." "Aw, come on, don't be like that. Listen, I came to apologize." "Yeah, sure you did." In the background, Regulus, and more important, Mary, can see Snape, Mulciber, and Avery. He doesn't know where Evan is, but that's all for the better. Using every ounce of his control, he has Regulus pause the memory like a video recording. He surveys the faces in the background, thinking. It would be so incredibly satisfying to frame Snape. But he's too clever. He had to figure out what was happening, find a way out. Hell, maybe even find a way to turn it around on Regulus. No. He needs someone stupid enough not to realize what's happening until it's too late. Or even better, someone stupid enough to want to take credit for it. Like wading through water, he pushes through Mary's memory, grabbing hold of Mulciber and moving him into Barty's spot, covering the first boy completely, dispersing him like smoke. The image before Regulus flickers, but he holds it tight, refusing to let go of the reins. "Hey, McDonald?" Mulciber walks toward her. "Get lost, creep." "Aw, come on, don't be like that. Listen, I came to apologize." Regulus watches the whole thing play out again. Watches Mulciber move forward further and further into Mary's space. Watches him pull out his wand. Watches him Imperio her. Watches Mary's memory shake and blur and fade to black. The voice isn't quite right. Still a bit too high for Mulciber, but there's nothing he can do about that. He hasn't the time or skill to fix it. Taking a deep breath, he pulls back, catching himself on his hands and knees as the corridor reforms around him. He blinks the spots out of his vision, breathing heavy as he turns to find Mary slumped against the wall, eyes closed again. He checks her pulse, just to be certain she's still okay, and then gets to his feet. The world spins for a moment, and he worries that he's going to pass out, but somehow he manages to keep hold of his consciousness. After a few more seconds, he turns his wand on himself and casts a new disillusionment charm, the old one having faded. Then, he knocks on the infirmary door and starts walking. He's nearly at the end of the hall when he hears the door open. "This better be important if—" Oh, sweetheart, what's happened to you?" Regulus doesn't stop, doesn't turn around, even as the horror in Pomfrey's voice trembles through him, the blood on his hands suddenly burning hot. He wonders if he'll ever get the stains out. Chapter endnotes. Hello, beautiful people. Yeesh, I know there are some intense chapters in this fic, but this one felt particularly intense. Maybe that's just me, though. I feel like Mary's attack is one of those things that is sometimes treated casually, but TBH, the idea of going to school with wizard Nazis sounds terrifying, so I kind of wanted to show how magic makes the situation more dangerous, but hopefully it wasn't too much. Thank you for reading and commenting, etc., etc. I hope you're all having a great day / night / whatever time it is, wherever you are. Hi, hello, this is So from the future. I was asked on my Tumblr why I chose to involve Reg and Mary's attack, and a few people thought it would be helpful if I posted the answer here, so I'm going to do that below for those of you who are interested in reading it. It's kind of long, so I apologize. I think there's this thing that happens in fanfics or fandom, or honestly in the Harry Potter books, where Snape is concerned, of having characters who are Death Eaters, who never do anything wrong except becoming a Death Eater. Does that make sense? They're portrayed as joining the club but never participating in any of the group activities, and therefore we're allowed to like them. And I think that's a problem, because it sets up this narrative that you can be, a Nazi, a white supremacist, or whatever real-life group you want to use in this metaphor, and still be a fundamentally moral person, and I disagree with that. If you are in any way supporting and standing with a group, with this group, you are morally compromised. So I wanted to make it clear that Regulus is not someone who does the right thing all the time, or who even knows what the right thing is, or who holds the right view or a healthy outlook on life. Because those things are if those things were true, then this story goes very differently. Then he never would have become a Death Eater. Then he's essentially just serious. It was also a way of holding the audience accountable. Like, we're out here rooting for this kid, and I think there are lots of reasons to root for Regulus, I really do. But he becomes a Death Eater, and you don't get to act like that doesn't mean something. This fic was meant to flesh Regulus out, give him depth, but part of that includes him being a character you cannot love unproblematically. I really wanted to avoid skipping over the Death Eater thing, which again I think happens a lot in this fandom. I love a morally gray character. I love a good arc. I love that Regulus switches sides in the end, but that doesn't mean there isn't still ugly stuff, that the ugly stuff is not going to be forgivable to some people, and that ugly stuff should make you feel uncomfortable. Even if ultimately I would like people to root for Regulus, it should be a difficult thing. Because being a Death Eater is not insignificant, and it should never be considered so. And you can't become one and not have that effect on the decisions that you make and the way you treat people. It would have been way too easy to have Regulus handle that situation perfectly and be like, look, he might be a Death Eater, but he's a good Death Eater. There's no such thing. And when you start to act like there is, you're romanticizing bigotry, which is something I think Regulus gets accused of a lot and something that I wanted to confront head on and not shy away from. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I also don't know that I actually managed to do any of the things I wanted by approaching the story this way, but that's what I was trying for. Hey guys, this is Matt. I am so sorry it took me so long to record this. This is my least favorite chapter in the entire story. I've read Choices before, and I have a really hard time reading this chapter, so it took me a long time to get it out. But also it's part of the story, and it is important, and I think it's very, very necessary for the story to make the most sense, like the author was saying. So yeah, again, sorry for taking so long with this one. It was just difficult. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you guys soon.